Hey everybody, and welcome back to Semi Stories. Today we got a frustrating story from r/EntitledParents, where OP tells the story of her sister who bought a house from her aunt, who now wants it back for a ridiculous price, which is not even half of what they paid. Hey guys, I never thought I'd post something here again, but this just happened to my sister and it was probably the most infuriating thing I've ever heard about my aunt. I apologize in advance if this is going to be a super long read, but I think it is quite necessary for the story to make sense. First, let me describe the kind of aunt that we have. This aunt, or entitled aunt I should say, of ours has been the source of headache for us as a family emotionally and monetarily. She would always ask my mom and dad for a loan that would take years for her to pay. Where those loans go is one of our biggest questions to date. And whenever my mom or eldest sister would ask her for the payment, she would always play the "I'm family" card and be all emotional and stuff to play on my mom's emotions. My mom has a soft spot with her family and she would most likely let it slide. But not my eldest sister. She would constantly remind and warn my aunt to pay her debts or she'll do something about it. My aunt would then turn to my mom asking for protection from my sister, to which my mom would talk to my sister about it. My sister though is not having it and is just relentless on her pursuit of making my aunt pay her debts. This got to a point where my aunt warned to sue my sister if she doesn't stop, to which my sister openly invited. My sister works in a law firm, so she knows the law and that our aunt has no case at all, and ultimately our aunt paid. But not without any parting words of how our family are a bunch of rude people and that she would never ever talk to us again, and such. But after a month or so, she made up with my mom and everything was well, except for my eldest sister. So for context with the title, my aunt put her house up for sale due to her children moving out. She had 2 daughters who are all married now. Initially, she said that the house was getting too big for me to keep and maintain, and that she'd plan on buying a nice condominium near the downtown area. Her house is 30 to 45-minute drive from downtown. My uncle didn't want her to sell it to someone they don't know, or at least does not have an affinity to, so she suggested to sell the house to a relative or super close friend. My aunt then talked to my youngest sister. I have 3 sisters and I'm the only guy, and pitched her the idea of buying the house from her. At first, my sister didn't really want to entertain the idea of buying a house at this point in time, as they have 2 kids that they are sending to a not so cheap school, but my aunt then pulled the sentimental value card that it would be a shame if the house was sold to someone else. Admittedly though, the house did have sentimental value for us siblings and cousins. We used to spend our summers over there as it's a pretty nice neighborhood and we have friends there as well. A basketball court is fronting the house, which is a win-win situation since they both have boys and her husband is a good basketball player. My aunt saw this as an opportunity for the boys and her husband to train or whatever. To my aunt's credit, she did have a nice pitch to my sister, so I got to give her that. My sister and her husband discussed this in length. It literally took about a month before they had their decision. My sister and her husband decided to buy the house as they have long planned to have a house of their own. But her husband's grandmother begged them to stay at the current house they're living in until his grandmother can return back, as she was sorting something out from a different city, so they decided to have it leased until they're ready to move. My eldest sister, who was by the way against all of this, helped with all of the contract and legal stuff so they can cover all their bases. The details of the sale aren't really familiar to me, but if my memory serves me right, the house and lot was sold for more or less 1 million pesos. My sister gave my aunt a more than generous amount of time to move out, 6 months. When the time came that everything was moved out, my sister and her husband decided to pay a visit to their recently bought house to see what extent the renovations would be. And to their surprise, the condition of the house was a literal crap hole. The walls and ceiling were falling apart, the tiles on the floor were chipped and started to get chipped, and the main bedroom was a mess. And the kitchen smelled like someone died in there for weeks. Although my aunt did disclose that some renovation work would be needed, she never disclosed that the house was that effed up. Once the renovation was done, the difference was night and day. As they were not moving into the new house yet, they listed the house for lease on some places and it garnered a lot of interest. The house was then leased to a foreign couple. The transaction went smoothly with the help of my eldest sister once again, and the couple even paid full price for the whole duration of the lease. Everything was smooth as butter, until yesterday. My sister got a call from the couple who leased the house early in the morning when she was dropping the kids off to school. This was on a Monday and my sister is usually super busy on these days. And this was one of those days. She answered the call and the following ensued. Side note, this is all based from my sister's retelling of the events and conversations. It might not be 100% accurate, but I'll try to be as close as possible. As a quick disclaimer, the nice husband and nice wife in the upcoming segment are the ones that leased the house. Hello, nice husband. Haven't heard from you for a long time. May I know why you called? Well, there is someone at the gate claiming that this is her house. Well, she might just be a crazy person roaming around the area. Well, no, she showed me pictures of the house and her in it. At this point, my sister kind of knew what was happening, so she drove there. She was coming from the different side of town, so it took her about an hour to get there. When she got there, she saw entitled aunt outside screaming to let her in. The neighbors were already out and witnessing the commotion. Entitled aunt sees my sister and hurriedly goes to her. Hey, sister, they won't let me in. And she points towards the nice couple. Entitled aunt, what are you doing here? Well, this was once my house. Am I not allowed to enter? What do you mean? I sold you this house, remember? And now I see that someone else is living here. Well, yeah, they're leasing the house. What? You would lease the house to someone I don't know? Yeah, because this is my house. I can lease it to whoever I want. At this point, my sister couldn't believe the stupidity of this situation and was getting kind of embarrassed with the neighbors looking on. She told entitled aunt to go inside so they can discuss it. Once they were in the house, my sister introduced entitled aunt to the couple who leased the property and the following ensued. How much did you lease the house for? Excuse-moi? I said, how much did you pay for the lease? I am sorry, but we do not see the need of discussing that to you. Why not? How much are they paying for the lease? It's none of your business. This is my property and I'm already generous enough to have let you in. What? I sold you this beautiful house and you treat me this way? Was the house sold to you two? Tell me. Look, lady, even if we did bought it, we don't need to tell you the specifics since we are not dealing with you. And no, we did not buy this house. You're a liar. I'll take the house back now. Excuse me, are you out of your mind? No, I'm not. And it's clear to me that you're an irresponsible homeowner. Here, take this 300,000 pesos and give me back my house. 300,000 pesos. Seriously? You need to leave my property right now. I will not allow you to disrespect me in front of these nice people. You can't kick me out of here. This is my house. I'm calling the cops right now. Entitled aunt then bolts out of there. On her way out, she screamed, I'll come back and take the house. This is not the end of this. Afterwards, entitled aunt was nowhere to be seen. My sister broke down in front of the nice couple. The couple asked her a few details about entitled aunt and were super understanding. My sister offered to return about 1/4 of the total money they paid for the lease, but the couple said that is not necessary. Her husband knew what happened and he was furious, to a point that he almost went to the condominium where entitled aunt was living in, but my sister was able to calm her down before anything bad happened. As of now, my sister and her husband are seeking legal advice from my elder sister and her firm. I'll post any updates if there are any. My god, what an aunt from hell. To first lie about the state of the house, and to then demand the newly renovated house back for peanuts in front of these two random people is insane. Where does one get the audacity and the courage to make such delusional demands? A big stroke of luck was that the eldest sister studied law and can help flesh out things. I bet that if she wasn't able to help, the aunt would have definitely added some weird things in the contract to be able to weasel herself out of the deal. And then that poor couple who probably just wanted to have a nice home for a short while they were in the country, only to be beset upon by this evil impling aunt demanding them hand over the keys. Crazy stuff. If you guys enjoyed the story so far, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the update. So some of you were asking why my sister and her husband didn't check the house before actually purchasing it. Well, they did. But my aunt apparently had amazing skills in hiding the flaws of the house that they didn't see it before it was too late. Admittedly though, the check wasn't really thorough since they are very busy people, managing multiple businesses and work and stuff. Add to the fact that they basically ride and fetch their kids to and from school, they already cramping a lot of things on their otherwise busy everyday schedule. A day after the incident, the nice couple who leased the house met with my eldest sister in the law firm that she works at. They discussed what their options are in case our crazy aunt pulls that stunt again, but they didn't want to file a restraining order at the time. My sister suggested that if ever our aunt strikes again, that they call the police and my sister. My eldest sister also informed my younger sister to prepare any legal documents showing that the property was hers. As this was happening, my uncle, who talked to my aunt the day before the incident happened, spoke to my mom and told her everything that our crazy aunt did before and after the house was sold and what happened a day before. The story gets a little bit long and crazy here, so I'll just provide bullet point summaries on the most important information of the whole conversation. A side note, everything here is only based on what I understood was said and might be slightly inaccurate on some parts, but I'll try to verify and update some of the info here if need be. Apparently, I was wrong on the assumption that my aunt bought a condominium. Instead, she bought a new house through a popular house and lot developer here, Camella Homes. Before the house was even sold, she, my crazy aunt, was able to somehow convince her eldest daughter into buying a new house with her, and that they'd split the cost once the house was sold. After the house was sold to my sister, crazy aunt spent almost half of it into buying new furnitures and appliances. The crazy part about that is that most of the furnitures and appliances in their old house was still very much serviceable, or even in crisp condition that my uncle was boggled as to why she'd need to buy new ones. Her reason? New house, new things. Talk about practicality. Where did the other almost half go? Well, she went on and treated her friends through fancy restaurants and or clubs. And here's the kicker. She paid diddly squat on the new house she's living in. Now, there was still some money left after all the spending, and when it came time that she'd pay for her part of the house, she casually told her daughter that it had been spent on new stuff for the house. And when asked where the not-so-old stuff were, she just said, "Well, I gave them away to my friends." When pressed if it was given or sold, "I gave them away. I can't sell my friends' old stuff." Like, what the f... Now, obviously her daughter got upset with all of this and threatened to no longer pay unless she pays her part. My crazy aunt then played the "you ungrateful B" card to her daughter and surprisingly turned the tables around. I don't really know how she did it, but she did it. As mentioned earlier, there is some money left, but it's not much. And my crazy aunt heard of this investment scheme that is quite honestly too good to be true. This investment scheme promised a 30% return to your investment per month. I don't really know much about it, but there's a great article about this scam and I highly recommend reading it. As it turns out, the remaining money, upwards to 50k, was invested in this scam. And when news broke that the scam was being stopped by the government, my uncle claimed that crazy aunt went batshit crazy and started having temper tantrums out of nowhere. Even her friends became victim of this sudden outburst that she was somehow banned indefinitely from her Zumba group. The 300k that she had on hand was not from the investment scam that she put herself into, but from her daughter for advancing payment on the house. My uncle said that when she got hold of the money, she quickly went through the old house she sold, and the rest is history. So there's the update. As of writing this, the new house was apparently sold, assumed to one of her friends, and crazy aunt moved to Japan with her daughters. I just hope my cousin will be able to keep her sanity after all this and the hell brought upon by her mom. So she was nuts to begin with. I'm not sure why I'm surprised. I think she should start a career as a saleswoman. Manipulating people into believing your delusion is tough to do, but it is clear she has quite a knack for it. I feel bad for the uncle, who clearly seems much more stable in the head and has to deal with this psycho. And going to Japan, really? With the aunt's attitude and mannerisms, she probably wouldn't last a week. Over there, I doubt they'll have the patience for such a loud and obnoxious foreigner. What do you guys think? Have any crazy relatives yourselves? Let me know down in the comments for me to read, and I'll be back in the next one. See ya!